Thanks everyone for joining us. If you're watching this webinar, you've most likely been thinking a lot about AI, the promise, the potential, and probably also some of the challenges in getting real value from it. Usually at this point in a webinar, you'd expect me to start telling you about a polished customer case study that I'm about to share, a feel-good success story that makes everything look simple and inevitable. But we want to turn this on its head. Today isn't about showing you the perfect example with a tidy ending. It's about talking honestly about what's making enterprises hesitate. Because while the promise of agentic AI is enormous, the path forward isn't always clear. That's why we've called this session, What's Holding You Back? Unpacking the Barriers to Embracing Agentic Applications. My name is Peter Milligan. I lead product marketing for our AI for Service solution here at Kore.ai. And I'll be framing the opportunity and setting the stage today. I'm joined by my colleague Santosh, who leads our product management team. He'll take us deeper into the barriers holding enterprises back and show you practical ways to move past them. So with that, let's take a quick look at what we're going to cover today. We'll begin with the big picture, the promise versus the reality of agentic AI. Then we'll dive into our 4 common barriers organizations face. Santosh will walk you through each one, explain the challenges of each, and share ways to solve for them. From there, we'll pivot to moving from barriers to breakthroughs with a closer look at how Kore.ai helps enterprises succeed. And finally, we'll close with a simple, practical playbook that you can take back to your teams. Let's start with the upside. Agentic AI has the potential to unlock tremendous efficiency and value. For example, Capgemini forecasts that AI agents could deliver up to $450 billion in economic value by 2028 through gains in cost savings, revenue, and productivity. Agentic applications can automate complex customer workflows, enhance decision-making with intelligent autonomy, and deliver seamless, low-effort customer experiences, all while lowering costs. And as Gartner puts it, Agentic AI has emerged as a game changer for customer service, paving the way for autonomous, low-effort customer experiences. So the promises here are enormous. But here's the reality check. At the Wall Street Journal CIO Summit, it was reported that 61% of IT leaders are experimenting with AI agents. However, only 2% of them have scaled them effectively. Even those experimenting report modest results, 75% saying that they're only seeing small benefits so far. And the research shows that 95% of AI pilots are not delivering measurable ROI. And trust is also identified as a significant barrier to adoption. And finally, as you can see here, nearly 9 in 10 enterprises encounter a number of barriers. And also, too, a lot of the senior leaders don't understand the benefits. So we have this tension here. We have the transformative promise of AI on one side and the practical barriers on the other side. And I understand when you see these numbers around failing pilots or companies' inability to scale these solutions effectively, it doesn't sound very promising. But here's the good news. By identifying these barriers, we can start to address them head on. Once you understand what's really holding organizations back, you can put the right strategies in place to solve for them. Which brings us to the 4 barriers we're going to unpack today. When we look at what's really holding enterprises back, 4 barriers surface again and again across industries: compliance concerns, AI skepticism, failed experiments, and resource constraints. And rather than just naming these, what we want to do is go a level deeper to understand why they happen and, more importantly, how to move past them. And that's exactly what Santosh is going to walk us through today. He'll take us through each barrier, the challenges they create in the real world, and lay out practical solutions to solve for them. He'll also talk about what it looks like to move from barriers to breakthroughs and how Kore.ai can help make that transition possible. And finally, he'll share a simple playbook that you can take back to your teams to start making progress right away. And with that, I'd like to turn the session over to Santosh. Santosh, take it away.
Thank you, Peter. What we'll do now is try and understand what are these common 4 barriers that we see enterprises are facing every day in adopting agentic applications. Now, the first barrier we believe is the most important and is around the concerns of the compliance. But there are multiple layers to it. Enterprises continuously try and do their best to meet all of the compliance needs. Every domain, every industry has their own needs, starting with the PII adoption, the GDPR, and regulations keep evolving as the businesses grow. And very recently, we have also seen the emergence of the EU AI Act that has a lot more details with respect to what the companies operating in the EU region should adhere when they're adopting the agentic applications. Now, in addition to the complexity or the nature of complexity with the regulations, the other dimension to the compliance concerns is the kind of not the black box nature of these AI models. The decisioning or the decision making of these models is not very transparent. It's extremely difficult to audit how the AI decisions were made. And it's even more difficult to explain this to compliance teams or to your customers when they come back and question you, why did you send this email or why did you make this decision for me? So the lack of transparency, difficult to audit why some decisions were made, or to explain the process involved in making these decisions adds another layer to complexity another layer of complexity. But the third dimension to this is concerns over the data privacy. Now, we all know that all of these generative AI models use real-world data as their training to start predicting the responses. Now, in this state on how these models are working, there are genuine concerns around the data privacy, the ownership of the intellectual property that gets generated out of these models, and also confidentiality of the proprietary information. So when you start giving, let's say, these AI agents to your internal employees, how do you make sure that they are not uploading data that is sensitive or that has confidential information about your business? How do you make sure that the IP that your teams are creating does not get into the public source? And how do you make sure the model providers are not using your data or your enterprise information to train the models? All of these are genuine concerns. And the last aspect within the compliance concerns is the lack of expertise. All of us are still learning. Now, because of the number of times we would have all come across the word AI, generative AI, AI agents, it looks like it's been decades, but it's just been hardly like 2 years that we are trying to adopt to this powerful new technology. So there is significant gap in the talent or the expertise in the fields of compliance, audit, and the technology team. So enterprises need to understand that this gap has to be filled, and filling this gap is not going to happen overnight. It takes structured process to make sure that all of your teams are well equipped with understanding of how the AI applications. Now, having said these are the challenge, the regulatory landscape, the lack of transparency, the lack of auditability, explainability, concerns around data privacy, protection of your intellectual property, confidential nature of your data, all of these are the problems. But then, what is the solution? The solution is obviously having a comprehensive AI governance frameworks that includes all of your key stakeholders coming together and defining, saying that, hey, for my business, these are the important aspects. When you create this framework, you need to consider different aspects to it. One, definitely you have to be compliant with your regulatory landscape. But again, you also need to understand the amount of risk appetite that you could take based on the use cases that you're automating, based on the confidential nature of your data, and based on other dimensions like whether you are using AI agents for your end users or for your employees, or is there any human in the loop, etc. So all of these aspects have to be understood and to create with a frame. And again, one size may not fit everyone. So depending on the use case, you may need to have the flexibility to either improve the amount of governance that you would put in, or you might want to step back in cases where you have built-in human in the loop feedback mechanism. And your AI agent development should have privacy by design, security by design. Right from day one, you need to understand the entire data movement right from how the data goes into the models, how the models are using this data to make decisioning, what are the observability capabilities that you expect from your agentic applications, where does the conversation history get stored, where do the prompts get stored. All of these have to be defined upfront. It is difficult for you to course correct once you make a mistake in the security aspect. So having privacy and security by design from day zero is extremely important. The third one is choosing a platform that is proven with respect to the ability to take care of the confidential information like the PII data, masking, anonymization, scrubbing the data. Any technique that you need has to be there as part of the platform. It has to have encryption supported throughout the lifecycle of the application, both during the design time and runtime, so that your information is secured. And it should also have robust governance controls in terms of the access mechanism. So there are multiple layers to it. You can think of access controls with respect to who can create an agent, who can publish an agent, who can interact with an agent. That's one side of it. The other side of it would be when the AI agent starts using your data, you have to treat that AI agent also like a human, establish what is the scope of the agent, what information can it access, can it view, can it edit, can it remove. All of those capabilities should also be available as part of the platform that you're trying to implement for building agentic application. And one of the most important aspects to address the concerns around the compliance is human in the loop. I mean, this is the most important aspect because as we discussed, the whole area is evolving. So having a human in the loop every time our AI agent takes an important decision is going to make sure that the overall success is within the boundaries that you have set. So the ways in which you can improve or implement human in the loop could be many. The one is whenever you are implementing an AI agent that kind of does a transaction on behalf of the user, you can define a mechanism where if the transaction is unusual, you can have a human approve it before it makes a decision. Similarly, whenever you're trying to automatically classify a ticket as a low priority or high priority, you can again have a process in place that tells when should a human be brought into the loop. So at different places, you can define where is the human oversight required. But as a platform, you need to make sure that you have that layer that allows you to bring in the human in the loop. So this is how we are working with our enterprise customers to address the compliance concerns around the compliance. Now, the second barrier is about the AI skepticism. Now, again, this is also very important. What we all see has been many research companies have come back with reports saying that 70% of the AI projects are going to fail. 80% of the AI projects that got implemented will be ripped off in 2027. I mean, we have seen all of those reports. Now, that kind of creates a doubt in our mind saying that, hey, is it even worth implementing it? That's a genuine concern because the failure rates of the AI applications are significantly high at the moment, which means there is a significant gap between the hype around what the AI agents can do and what is the reality or what is the outcome that the AI agents have delivered to enterprises so far. Now, there are multiple reasons why this gap exists. One of the biggest reasons being as there is a kind of mad rush to start adopting AI agents, many of the enterprises would have started AI agents without really defining what is the return or what is the outcome that they are expecting. So defining the scope of the AI agent is extremely important, but lack of having a defined scope means that it's difficult to measure the outcomes, and which is again resulting in the failures of these AI applications. The other one is the accuracy levels or the reasoning capabilities of these models is still not there yet. Now, for small to medium complexity use cases, yes, we can safely use AI agents, but once the use case complexity becomes more and more difficult, then it becomes extremely challenging to define AI agents that can handle all of this complexity. For example, if you're building an AI agent, like say to do a summarization of a conversation or classification of a ticket, or just sending or composing an email or writing a first draft of your research report, then AI agents can do pretty much very good work. But if you're trying to do a little more deeper analysis using AI agents, for example, identifying all customers who are at the risk of churn in the next 2 quarters, this requires the AI agents to go to multiple systems, understand the complexities of your product, understanding the nature of the relationship you have with the customer, probably going to different meeting minutes, and also going into the support tickets. So there's a wide range of applications that it has to access. Then start coming up with a rank order of saying, hey, here are the top customers that you should focus on. This kind of involves reasonable complexity with respect to the amount of data that it has to process and also the kind of reasoning it has to do before it generates a report. So those are the places where it starts struggling. So when you start creating the AI agents, the purpose and the purpose has to be clearly defined so that you can easily measure the outcomes. So you need to be cognizant of the layers of complexity involved and choose the one that is right for the kind of models that you are selecting. The other aspect to it is the inherent nature of humans saying that, hey, if AI is going to come in, is it going to take away my job? So that's something all of us are contemplating. It. Now, historically, we have seen this happening again and again. Whenever there is a technology disruption or a significant technology that is going to automate certain things, humans will eventually move to do something more valuable, something more meaningful, something more important to do. So that's eventually going to happen. But the challenge is, today, we may not know what those new tasks are, but like we have seen time and again in the history, whenever technology is taking up the current roles, the humans automatically go to the next level of productivity and start doing that is much more meaningful and productive. The other challenge that we're seeing is, again, related to the previous point, is the measurable return on investment from a leadership point of view. Now, the success of a project, so you could have a successful AI agent deployment, but however, if the return on investment is not in line with the expense of the cost that you have put in, then you're losing the purpose of implementing it. Let's say you built a AI agent, you took like 3 months for a 10-member team, you built it, you rolled it out successfully and everything. But then you realize that you only have very little work to be automated using that AI agent, and then there's no point in doing all of this automation. So you need to have the ROI defined upfront so that you have so that you can shortlist the right business use cases which can be automated using AI agents. Now, for these challenges, some of the solutions we discussed, but again, one thing we always keep going back to is choosing the right pilot projects that are of low risk, but that give you the enough confidence to understand the landscape better, and then that also gives you the confidence to deploy it safely. So the typical use cases include employee-facing use cases or the contact center agent-facing use cases. So these are safer use cases to deploy because you're only going to help the employee do something better, obviously in 20% or 30% of their time, but you're not changing or disrupting the existing business processes. Those are the good places to begin with so that you get comfortable with adoption of the AI. Second, you need to start creating cross-functional AI centers of excellence. You can bring in teams from your operations team, from your business team, from your strategy teams, from your technology team, AI team. So all of them need to come together and define a center of excellence so that whether you're trying to build up AI agents by yourself, or you want to include a partner, or you want to create a technology for your own enterprise, or use a third-party platform, you need to have a structured process defined to understand how to build the AI agents, how to deploy them, and how to scale them. So all of this requires you to create clear policy guidelines and also a lot of training to your internal employees to understand how these AI systems are going to coexist with their existing applications. Now, another aspect is, again, going back to it's kind of connected to the previous barrier, which is about the transparency involved. So measuring the accuracy of AI agent applications is still evolving. Now, obviously, the previous metrics that we used to use for measuring the success may be or may not be relevant, but the AI agents definitely need additional set of metrics. For example, the classic problem of completeness versus correctness. So if you take the use case of summarizing a conversation or summarizing an email, summarizing a support ticket, there are two aspects to it. Right? One is the AI agent summarizing it correctly, which means it is the summary in line with the original discussion. And the second aspect to it is completeness, which is all the different nuances that were included in the original ticket or an email, are they all included in the summary? So these are the new kind of metrics that will evolve and that will become the baseline metrics to evaluate the performance of AI agents. So that's the second barrier about the AI skepticism. Now, the third one, let's say you have crossed the compliance concerns, You have crossed the skepticism around AI, you have created internal policies, you have educated all your employees, and you started building AI agents. And the barrier that you would face at this moment would be the failed experiments. Now, even after setting it all of it, you might still see failures in your agentic journey. One of the common reasons that we have come across is sometimes the AI teams or any team may get overexcited with the capability of the model itself. So I still remember the GPT-2 when GPT-2 2.0 was released. A lot of our team, including myself, we got excited. But then, we were lucky that we were not too excited. But when we got excited, we started using and we realized, hey, these are the 10 things it is good at, but there are 100 other things where it cannot be used. But when GPT-3 came, our excitement grew. When GPT-4 came, when the reasoning models came, again, the excitement grew. So as the models are becoming more and more better, it is very natural that all of us will get excited about using these models. But we have to be extremely careful to not get carried away with this excitement. The reason being, as an enterprise, your objective is not to use a model. Right? So your objective is to transform your business. Now, when I say transform your business, you have a problem statement that you are trying to address using AI agents. So your focus should be more on what is the problem that you're trying to solve, not necessarily what is the model that you should be adopting. Second, the outcomes have to be defined upfront. So what usually happens is when you start using the AI agents, because at the beginning you feel like everything and anything can be done using these AI agents, then it is very often that you don't define the metrics upfront very clearly. So you need to have those metrics defined, without which it is difficult to measure the outcome or the success of your project. The other important challenge, and this is very, very important for any kind of AI agentic applications, is the availability of quality data for your AI agent. Now, AI agents are only as good as the context that you are supplying. So the entire narrative or discussion that's going around context engineering, it's extremely important. So like we all know, the models are only predicting the next token based on the knowledge or the training that they have gone through. The only way you can make the agents perform based on what your needs are is by supplying the right context to it. When we say supplying right context, it is about giving it the access to the right data that is relevant to an agent at a given point in time. Now, when we say data, there are two ways of thinking about it. Right? One is your enterprise knowledge base, your policies, your standard operating procedures, your guidelines. So that's one side of the data. The other side of data is about your employee information, your customer information, your products, your services. So these two sets of data become important for your AI agents to start performing. Now, there are multiple aspects to it. Now, protocols like model context protocol are making it easy for integrating with external systems. But again, it only just a protocol. You still need to make sure that the data that you're supplying to the agents is correct. So one of the common problems that we have seen in many of our customer implementations is when you integrate with your existing business applications, those applications were not designed to be consumed by AI agents. They are all traditional applications. So for example, as an example, let's say if you integrate with the Jira API and you're trying to get a ticket information, now the way these APIs are designed is to give back as much information as possible so that the consuming application can decide what to take or what not to take. But when it comes to AI agents, and if you are sending all of the information from Jira to AI agent, you are bloating the context with a lot of information that is not relevant. So there are two big problems that happen. One is the model starts hallucinating because you're giving it a lot of unnecessary data. And the second, you are bloating the context with additional tokens, which means more latency and more costs for you. So it is extremely important that you provide the right quality and the right quantity of data to your agents when required. And those are the aspects that you would generally face when you start experimenting. One, getting too excited about the capability of the model, but not enough focus on the use case that you're trying to implement. Second, the metrics to measure the success have to be defined upfront, and the use case have to be very, very clear to say that, hey, this is what I'm specifically trying to do. So it has to be a lot more close. And the last one is the quality of the data that you're going to give to your AI agent to make the right decision. Now, During every stage of your pilot, there will be a lot of places where you can learn from your mistakes or learn from your actions. Now, this is extremely important as you start adopting AI agents, because you need to create playbooks so that as you roll out more and more use cases, you don't necessarily have to go through the same learning journey again and again. Like I said in the previous one, if you create a center of excellence that monitors every pilot project that you're implementing, and if they can start creating internal policy guidelines or internal playbooks so that every time a new team starts using it, they can learn from the learnings of the previous projects and move the project much more fast. And also, do not plan for a big bang project with AI agents, especially with so many uncertainties around it. Always start with a close-ended problem with defined metrics to it. One of the ways that you can make, so if we have discussed so many aspects to it, right? You might have started thinking that now it's becoming too complex for me. There are so many decision points, there are so many questions, there are so many aspects that I have to manage. So that's where platforms come into play, where a lot of these capabilities are already built in. You only have to configure them based on how you or your enterprise are trying to adopt the AI agents. That's what we'll cover how you can think of a platform as well in the next slides. But that's something that you should be aware of, that you don't have to solve all of the problems by yourself. You can always use a specialized platform to make a lot of these things go away for you. The last barrier is about the resource constraint. Again, even here, there are two aspects to the resource constraint. The first aspect to it is the human side of it, which is the availability of qualified employees, or whether it is data scientists, it is AI engineers, or the prompt engineers, or the business teams, or the QA teams. Any of these different roles that you have with your enterprise, do you have the right skill set or the right quantity of people available for you to drive these initiatives? That's the first resource constraint. The second resource constraint is the infrastructure that is required to build these AI agents. When we say infrastructure, there are again different layers to it. One, if you are using commercial models, probably you are not much constrained with the infrastructure. But again, when you use commercial models, it comes with the additional cost of the model use. But if you are going with deploying open source models or fine-tuning models for your own use cases, it requires additional infrastructure in the form of GPUs to be available for both training and inferencing. So these are the two aspects. One is the human side of it, and second is the technology side of it. You need to have clearly laid out plans to upskill your existing employees, to make them aware of everything about the AI and AI agents. Second, on the infrastructure side, you need to have your policy defined for what kind of use cases would you like to go for commercial models, what are the use cases that you can achieve with open source models. And like we all know, open source models as well are becoming a lot better every day. So even the tool calling capability of these open source models has significantly improved. The reasoning capability has significantly improved. So as long as you define your use case as well, and you break it down into clean steps in the execution, each of these individual steps can be pretty much done by an open source model. You don't have to go with the commercial models for all use cases. Then you also has a change management fatigue, because a lot of enterprises are still going through the transformation with respect to digital transformation or mobile transformation. But then in addition to all of the transformations that you've been going through, now there's a new AI transformation. So there's some amount of fatigue, both at the management level or the employee level, saying that how many more changes do I need to roll out? So that's something that enterprises have to be cognizant of. Now, some of these challenges, especially on the technology side, can be taken care by purpose-built platforms, where they provide you the ability to easily connect to a model of choice, dynamically route your input to the right model during the runtime, or automatically provision infrastructure for you whenever you want to deploy open source or fine-tuning models. So these are all the advantages that you would get by using a purpose-built agentic platform. Then you also need to define a total cost of ownership for implementing these agentic applications. And when you define this cost structure, you also need to consider the cost in transforming your employee workforce, whether it is upskilling them or hiring new people or making them understand the challenges or the timelines that are required to roll out these projects. And on this other side, on the technology side, whether you pick a platform or you build everything by yourself, you need to consider those aspects as well. And also, you need to create a phased adoption roadmap saying that, hey, on day one, I'm only going to focus on employee use cases. But in day two, I'm going to introduce it for my contact center agents. On day three, I want to give it to all my customers for example, low value use cases like where is my order. But at some point, you want to allow your customers to do their own transactions as well using AI agents. So you can define your roadmap to from low complexity, easy to measure ROI to high complexity to difficult to measure ROIs, depending on the maturity of your journey with the AI applications. So those are the 4 key barriers that we spoke about. The concerns around compliance with respect to adhering to different compliance regulations, challenges with lack of transparency, auditability, explainability of the models. On the AI skepticism, the accuracy levels of AI models are still improving. We have seen a lot of research saying that most of the projects are failing, or most of the projects will be scrapped within the next 1 to 2 years. Then most of the customers have also come back and saying that, hey, my initial project failed for various reasons. And then the challenges with respect to lack of availability of skilled resources, infrastructure, everything. But then the solutions that we spoke about include having a comprehensive governance framework, having privacy and security by design from day one, and also probably choosing a platform that takes care of all of your security needs automatically with no or very less involvement from you, and having human in the loop oversight take care of auditability and explainability. For this AI skepticism, we spoke about how to start small, how not to get carried away with the promise of AI, but instead focus internally on what is the right use cases that you would like to implement. And also define the metrics, the success metrics, so that it becomes easy for you to evaluate whether you're making progress or not. Then, on the experiment side, again, you need to, the solutions probably are similar, but again, always start with a focused project, defined outcomes, and measure the progress at every step of the flow. And always keep your business objectives first instead of focusing on what the model can do. On the resource constraint, you need to explore platforms that allow you to choose a model dynamically, where you don't have to build everything, where the integrations are pre-built, you don't have to build them. And similarly, coming up with the total cost of ownership for maintaining AI applications today and for tomorrow. So we looked at the barriers, right? Those are all the problems. But the good news is that you're not alone. All of us are going through the same journey. We have seen this from many of our customers. Most of them have started going through the same set of problems that we discussed. But you can always learn from all of these places and improve. So being aware of the problems is the biggest advantage that you have. Once you have an introspection saying that, hey, here are all the problems that we should be aware of, then they can be definitely addressed by the right approach to solving these problems. Now, some of the important aspects that will help you move forward is the trust that you set up in the ecosystem of AI agents, the speed with which you can move your teams by having clearly defined goals, by adopting the technology or having the right metrics, and the scale of adoption, where we said you start from close-ended problems, then you go to open-ended problems. Now, these are the good aspects of it, but how can a platform like Kore help? So the multiple areas where companies like us, like Kore, can help you solve these problems. One, the platform is compliance ready by design. We are like an 11-year-old company. We've been building the platform, has been adopted by the largest of the enterprises across different domains, banking, telecom, pharma. So both regulated, highly regulated, and government and have started using our platform. So most of your compliance needs will be taken care out of the box on day one. The second one is, because you're going to have different use cases that you want to implement, having the flexibility that allows you to choose how you want to build AI agents, how you want to connect them, how you want to deploy them is important. So instead of coming up saying that, hey, this is what you want to do, what our platform does is gives you the ability to create your own narrative on how you want to deploy the AI agents by defining the orchestration patterns of your choice. Now, when you build these orchestration patterns, one of the key challenges that you should be aware of is the accuracy levels that you want to achieve, the explainability of how these AI agents are making their decision, and how are you controlling the hallucination by supplying the right data to these AI agents. Now, the other aspect that we help our customers is a host of pre-built AI agents and pre-built integrations. Now, Integrations is an age-old problem. Nobody has to solve it from day zero. We have more than 250 plus integrations with most of the business applications, whether it is to retrieve the information or whether it is to perform an action. All of these integrations are already available, and you can choose an authorization mechanism of your choice to connect to the system. We don't just stop there. So we also have created pre-built AI agents, more than 150 of them, all of them available in our marketplace. And what we have done is in our quest to improve the adoption, we have made all of these AI agents available for all of our customers. So you can browse on marketplace, pick an agent of your choice, and install into your workspace. Now, when you deploy this agent, it comes pre-built with all of the integrations and the orchestration. But if you'd like to extend it for your own use cases, you're free to do it. So you get best of the both worlds. You have a pre-built integration and with the ability to extend it to your needs so that you can go much more faster in realizing your investments. Now, for advanced use cases, we have done like a 3-layered approach of our platform. There's a no-code platform without writing a single line of code. For people like me who are like product managers, business analysts, you can build an AI agent simply by defining what your AI agent should be doing and using the pre-built agents and integration. But then we also support low-code. So what we mean by low-code is like I might have created a no-code framework, but I might ask one of my engineering counterpart to write a complex logic, like say maybe include a JavaScript logic, maybe include some logic by writing Python code, etc. So to wherever there is a complexity involved, I can work alongside my development team. So you have low code options within the no code platform. But then the third one, which we are seeing a lot of adoption, is the pro code approach. Now again, a lot of AI teams and the AI engineering teams are experimenting with these agentic applications, and they would like to have their creative freedom available even when they use a platform like Kore. So instead of getting constrained by what the platform has today, the agent SDK from Kore.ai allows AI teams and engineering teams to extend the platform's capability in terms of the orchestration patterns, AI agents, tool workflows, etc. But once you define your SDK, you can bring it back to the platform and deploy it so that we take care of governance with respect to deployment, auditing, tracing, scalability, security, etc. So again, you get best of the both worlds in this case. And the last one is you need to have a proven adoption framework from how do you start small, how do you measure the outcome, and how do you take these learnings and adopt it to the next level of complexity of the use cases. Again, repeat the process, measure the outcomes, identify the challenges, then iterate, and then start going to larger use cases with higher return in. Now, having said how Kore can help, so is there a standard playbook that an enterprise can use to make sure that they are successfully reaching their goal of adopting agentic application? And I think yes. So this is a playbook that we have co-created along with many of our customers. We've been working with our customers over the past 2 years, right from the days of GPT-3 till today. For various use cases, we have implemented agentic applications for customer service. We've implemented them for employee experience transformation. And most importantly, we've also implemented agentic applications for process transformation. So based on our experience in working with all of these large enterprises, we came up with this playbook that we believe will help every other enterprise as well. So first one is introspect to understand what are your barriers honestly, because all of the 4 barriers are applicable for every enterprise. But like they say, the devil lies in the details. So unless you double click into each of these concerns and identify what are the specific areas of concerns that your enterprise has, it will be extremely difficult to make progress in the next steps. So you need to introspect to understand what is the need for agent applications in your enterprise, what are your barriers, and what are the challenges you're going to face. Then start with one high value use case, but it can be easily implemented, right? Because if you want the adoption to be successful, if you want buy-in from your leadership, you need to show the value right from day one. We cannot continue like a 6-month POC or a 9-month POC without any return at it. So you need to identify the high value use case, but easy to implement. So this requires you to spend good amount of time just to do the brainstorming on the use cases that you would like to transform. Then you need to embed trust by setting up the metrics that you would like to monitor. Now, there are 2 types of metrics in the agentic world. One is the the safety aspects of it, and second is the performance aspect. Now, safety aspects relates to the guardrails that you want to put in place with respect to the content that gets generated or the input that is sent to the model, right? Both the input and output scanners. So that's the first aspect. So you need to define very clearly what are your safety guardrails that you're going to put. Second is the performance aspect of it, which is how do you measure the outcomes of these agentic applications. In case of customer service, the classic metrics like the CSAT, first resolution, all of those are still relevant, but the way you measure these metrics will be slightly different because the decisioning is autonomous or agentic in this case. In case of employee satisfaction, in case of employee transformation, you could look at the number of tickets getting resolved or number of, in case of employee transformation, you can look at metrics like the number of tickets that got resolved or the number of internal improvements that the employees have done in terms of improving the processes. So depending on the use case, your the performance metrics would also change. Again, like we discussed, briefly discussed in the previous sections, you need to leverage something that are already pre-built for you. You don't need to create everything from scratch. One of the very, very interesting aspects that we are all seeing today is the amount of open source technology that is out there. There's a lot of good open source technology out there. You should evaluate and understand what works for you and what does not work. And if possible, you could take the open source as is and use it for your needs, or you could simply use it as an inspiration so that your teams can use that as a baseline and build their own. So you need to look at what is already out there before you start building everything from scratch. Now, the last playbook is scaling the adoption. Now, while we might show a very, very good use case with a high value in the day one, but again, for continuous investment from your leadership to transform the agentic space, you need to identify the use cases that are going to give you more and more scale as you move forward. So not just today, you need to have a vision of the future as well. I wouldn't say you should be clear of where you should be in the next 5 years, but you need to have a plan at least for next 3 to 4 quarters to understand these are all the use cases that you're going to transfer. I'll now hand off to Peter.
Thank you, Santosh, for walking us through these barriers and telling us how organizations can move past them with practical strategies and solutions. It was extremely valuable information. So as we close here, there's 3 big takeaways. Agentic AI isn't a future vision. It's here today. And as you've heard, the barriers are real, but also, as you've seen, they are solvable. I think that Deloitte captures it really well in this quote, that as we move from possibilities to practicalities in enterprise generative AI adoption, scaling up and skilling up go hand in hand. And I think you heard a lot of that from Santosh today. And how we can help, that's exactly where Kore.ai can help. We can meet you where you are, whether you're just experimenting or you're already scaling your AI solutions. We can help you move forward with confidence. So on behalf of Santosh and myself, I'd like to thank you for joining us.